We'll do anything in our power to be able to make someone happy when we love them, but sometimes we might be fools to trust them blindly just because we love them so much. You can get more stories from our channel by subscribing to our channel. Before getting into the story, it would be fair to say that the name of my ex-wife was Liana, who was 29 years old, and me, Dave, who was 32 years old. There was a bit of a cruelism in our story. It's been 4 years since we met. It has been 2 years since we got married. During a function I attended, I had the opportunity to meet her. Her job at the school was to teach music to the children. My sister and I went to the function together. It was she who was her colleague. It took me only a few moments to fall in love with her. Her lemonade stalls was set up at that function, and she sold lemonade there. It was my sister and I who went to her stall together to meet her. I was introduced to her by my sister, where she met me for the first time. It was a pleasant conversation that we had. In order to get closer to her, I told my sister to help me out in trying to get to know her better. Since I had recently broken up with my ex-girlfriend, I was desperate to start a new relationship, and when I saw Liana, I knew that she was the one for me. Anyhow, that was the beginning of our story. As we began to hang out, we had a lot of fun. During our conversation, she also told me that she had a boyfriend, that she had left because he was not responsible. It is true that he still loves her, but she has moved on from him. In addition to that, I also informed her that even though I had a few affairs before this one, they were not so serious as this one. At the beginning, I was not sure if I would fall in love with her in the future, but it did happen. It was at first that I was attracted to her, but I wasn't sure that it would turn into a marriage relationship in the future. We got married after a year and a half, and during our marriage, there was a misfortune that took place one day before our marriage, and that was very traumatic for me. When my mother passed away, my mother was very close to me and I was very attached to her. It felt as if my whole world had stopped. We had to wait for 1 month for our marriage to take place because of that. But it finally happened after 1 month. As a result of the death of my mother, I was very upset. But Liana and my sister were there for me throughout that difficult time. As a result of their support, I am able to be strong. My new life was not a perfect start, however, because I believe in destiny, and from that perspective, it was not a good beginning for me. However, I found that Liana always tried to love me no matter what the circumstances were. Besides forgetting the trauma, I also began to live a much better life as a result of it. As soon as we had been married for 3 months, we went on our honeymoon. It had an excellent time and we had a lot of fun. In the middle of the night, as I was about to go to sleep, I received a message from my ex-girlfriend. After apologizing to me, she wanted me to hook up again with her. However, it was not possible for me to do so. I told her that I have a wife now, but I just informed her that I couldn't start over again since I already have a wife. Having moved on from her, I believe that she should also have moved on from me, and I blocked her. A friend of mine suggested that I read some of the stories on Reddit as a way of passing the time. I was on Reddit at that time. I found it to be a good activity for me. There was no knowledge of this on the part of Liana. In any case, once we went out for dinner, that ex-girlfriend I don't know from where appeared, and without thinking about the circumstances, she started apologizing to me and asking me to forgive her. She was not able to forget and even pleaded with me to go back together with her. In addition to that, I told her that now I am married, I would like to have her leave us alone. It was a real bother for us to have her around. I could also sense that Liana was feeling unwell at the same time as me. In the following weeks, she stopped talking to me and acted like we were strangers to each other. It was one night when I asked her about her strange behavior, and she said she was upset because you were chatting with the girl without telling me. Can you tell me who knows you cheated on me again since you met her and slept with her? Are you crazy? I asked her. When she contacted me first, I informed her that she should stay away from me as she was trying to get closer to me again when she messaged me first. "No, I am not interested in starting a relationship with you." It is time for her to explain to move on. I explained everything to Liana about our conversation. On that night, I don't know where she came from, and I told her clearly that we had ended our relationship forever. However, despite the fact that I tried to convince her, she was not convinced by my arguments. As a result of her behavior, I was also getting upset and irritated with her. As a result, I started spending a great amount of time reading stories or playing games. As much as I tried, I was unable to make her happy, as she was born with a very stubby head. One of the times, I arranged a beautiful dinner for Liana on a Valentine's Day for her as a surprise. In spite of this, she did not want to go with me when I told. It was very disappointing for me. A few days later, during my office break, I found a new account on Reddit which I believed to be Liana's account. My interest in her was piqued. Due to the fact that my account name was a fake one, she couldn't recognize me. In her story, she shared a confession that she had made by herself. In addition, she stated about what happened in her life regarding the incidents she encountered, as well as the fact that she found her husband, who was me, chatting with her ex-girlfriend, which was painful for her to learn about. There was no way for her to forget about it. According to her, she was very possessive of me, and as a result of that incident, she got very stressed out because of it. She was in a lot of stress at that time, so she was unsure why and how it happened, but she confessed that she slept with our neighbor, James, during that time. Her actions were regrettable, and she was regretting them to this day. Nevertheless, she was responsible for committing this crime. As I listened to this story, I started to sweat in the office and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was hard for me to believe what I read. It was true, but I couldn't deny it. It was for this reason that my mind was blown. There was a feeling of helplessness in me. In anger, I went right back home as soon as possible. I wanted to know why she had done that to me. In fact, I was on my way. As I was driving to my home, I saw James. He was parking his car in the driveway of his house. As soon as I pulled over my car, I went to him and punched him in the face. Afterwards, he asked me what he had done to deserve such a punishment. The reason I said that is because you know what the purpose of it was. It is all about Liana, and I know everything about her, and you should be ashamed for doing this to her. I don't understand, how could you do something like this? Suddenly, he started apologizing to me for what he had done. In addition, he requested me to calm down as soon as possible. There is no way for me to calm down for what you've done. I'm going to teach you as well, Liana, the lesson that you'll remember for the rest of your life. Then suddenly, I got an idea to take revenge on what had been done to me by her. A nearby cafe shop was the place we went to. I told him that if he does not do anything that I would say, then I will tell his wife and mother everything that I know about him. First of all, I got his cell phone and started scrolling through it. Having found his wife's phone number, I saved it to my cell phone for easy access. I asked him how many times you both had sex with each other. The first thing he did was stare at me nervously, and then he said just once. It happened only once. The only thing I asked was that, tell me the truth, otherwise I'll do what I said I would do. I heard him say it 3 times in a row. It was an unfortunate event and he apologized for it to me. According to him, she was very upset by what had happened, and every time it happened, she was the one who started seducing. When I listened to all this, I told him to fuck her again as soon as possible. As he listened to this, he was shocked. When I told him what I was going to do, he asked, "Are you serious? Are you kidding with me? You really want me to fuck her again?" I said yes, and that's what you heard from me. According to him, he would not be able to do this. In response, I said, "Okay, I'm going to tell your wife about this." Eventually, after threatening him a few times, he agreed to do this. I said you should do it as soon as possible, and whenever you're available to do it, just let me know. Even after confessing her sin on Reddit, she was still meeting with him despite confessing her sin. There was a regular update in the Reddit story that she was posting. Sometimes I wonder if she was a psycho who was doing all this and I don't know why she was doing it. Furthermore, she behaved like a crazy person with me on top of all this. With me, she was becoming accustomed to shouting a lot more and more often. As soon as I found out about her confession, I stopped arguing with her, since now everything was over between us and I was waiting for the right time to expose. It was told to me by him that she had called him to arrange a meeting. There were many times when they met in the pub. As one of the writings, she was still posting updates about her current life on her Reddit account. In her account, she said that she had slept with him, but that she was not sure what to do next. My life could be summed up in one sentence as the worst experience I ever had with a girl. The fact that I married her was a mistake on my part. No one knows how many times she has already cheated on me before this. After a few days, I was in the office and was in a meeting when I suddenly received a message from James stating that he was going to meet her and that he was confident that she wanted sex because she told him to bring condom. The moment I heard that she had come to my house, I immediately called her mother and her 2 brothers to let them know what I had something to share with them. There was a lie that I told, but I don't know what to say to everyone else to get them to believe me. In an attempt to get home as soon as possible, I rushed from the office. After 5 minutes, I messaged Jem so that he could keep me updated until I had reached there. In a message to me from James, he told me that he was in bed and that Leanna was in the washroom. It was a matter of minutes before I reached home. Before I waited for a few minutes out of the house, Leanna's mother and brother arrived within a few minutes. It was then that I asked them to come into the house with me. The keys to the house were in my hand, so I went in the house as soon as I opened the door. As soon as I opened the door of the room, I found Leanna on the bed besides James, who were both naked, but they both were covered with blankets. There was astonishment on the faces of her brothers and mother. As soon as she watched us, she began to blame James, saying that he was the one who seduced me, but everything was right in front of everyone's eyes, so everything was obvious. She was slapped very hard by her mother, having stood there in the door for a few moments. I was wondering why it had come to this and how she would suffer and deal with the consequences. It was my intention to divorce her, so I told her mother to get her along with them. As Leanna cried and apologized to me, she explained that she did not want to divorce me, but I didn't see her once. On top of that, I also informed James' wife about everything that was going on. The reason he should be punished for what happened is that he was also a criminal and totally involved in sin with Leanna. Now they both are suffering the consequences.